The Philippine government has declared a state of national calamity following one of the biggest storms ever recorded. The UN says 10,000 people are feared dead in one city alone. 800,000 people have had to leave their homes, and across the Philippines, more than 9 million are affected. One Philippine government minister responded to the crisis in highly emotional terms. Yeb Sano, the climate change commissioner, was at an international conference when he heard the news.
And the devastation is staggering. I struggle to find words even for the images that we see on the news coverage. And I struggle to find words to describe how I feel about the losses. Up to this hour, I agonize, waiting for word to the fate of my very own relatives. What gives me renewed strength and great relief is that my own brother has communicated to us and he had survived the onslaught.
Well, Sano broke down after the statement at the COP19 summit in Poland. He says he will not eat anything for the next 2 weeks in solidarity with his brother, who's not eaten for days. Let's cross now live to Al Jazeera's Margot Ortigas. She's standing by for us in Manila. Margot, as the true scale of this disaster continues to emerge, just give us an idea of these worst affected places.
Indeed, Haiyan crossed over 44 provinces, and as you mentioned earlier, 10 million people affected by this in a way that really the government couldn't have prepared for or anticipated, although they did try. But they themselves have admitted that they're a little overwhelmed now. And even if the aid has been pouring in, it's still been very difficult to get that aid to some of the most affected areas, as roads are impenetrable still in many of those parts. Power is still down and transportation is a problem. We have our colleague Wayne Hay in Tacloban City, one of the worst affected zones.
first light brings new hope for many people in the central Philippines. Each day it signals the arrival of flights by the military. They're bringing in much-needed relief supplies and taking people out of an area largely destroyed by Typhoon Haiyan. Getting on board are the injured and sick, and those who have lost everything. People walk for huge distances to get to the airport in the hope they may find some food or water being given out by the military or a ticket out. Etched on their faces, the pain of what's becoming an increasingly desperate situation. Many people who have chosen to stay for now are still struggling to come to terms with the disaster.
We really want to get out of the house because the water is really coming in. I have 3 kids. I don't know what to do, and then we transferred to the house of my mother.
As the people walk, they pass many bodies on the side of the road. In places, the stench is becoming unbearable. Removing the bodies is a slow process. Those that have been collected are taken to a makeshift morgue where local officials attempt to identify them, after which they're being taken to mass graves. It is very early days, but from what we've seen, there is very little recovery effort going on. Clearly, there is still not enough food and water to go around, and there doesn't seem to be anyone picking through the rubble looking for the missing. At the moment, people still seem to be in survival mode. Many challenges lie ahead for this city and its people. While there is security in some places and a nighttime curfew in place, looting is still a problem. Here, the remains of a supermarket were being picked through and taken away. Small teams of medics are doing the best they can to treat basic wounds suffered during the storm. But with so many bodies lying around and no sanitation, other health problems may soon arise.
We want to prevent diarrhea because we don't have water as of now. And then also from those who have fever and of course maybe leptospirosis.
There is very little people can do about those concerns right now. For the most part, they're fending for themselves in a city that's been torn apart. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Tacloban.
Margaret, we were saying earlier that the government has declared a state of national calamity. How does that speed up relief effort?
Basically, what this means is that they have emergency powers. Emergency funds are now going to be able to be released and used. They're going to integrate more how they communicate with all the local government units. Of course, this is as best as they can, considering communication, infrastructure-wise, is still a massive, massive problem. But it also gives the government the power now to control the prices. They're going to keep the prices quite low. Obviously, we have been hearing reports of looting over the last few days by survivors who are desperate to get food, water, really anything they can get their hands on. But it's gone a little out of control. There are now widespread reports of many of these people banding together apparently they have weapons as well, and they're setting up armed barricades to stop any kind of aid or people who are coming in, anybody who they can steal from. Supposedly they're now taking things from them at gunpoint. Now the government has heard these reports. They're setting up special checkpoints and roadblocks to try to make sure this situation doesn't escalate and become even more of a security concern.
Okay, Margot, many thanks for that update there from Manila. Well, there's been a huge mobilisation of international relief efforts. Nate Raby, as regional spokesman for the International Federation of the Red Cross, joins us now from Kuala Lumpur. Thanks very much for being with us. What is the Red Cross doing?
Well, as you can imagine, and as you've just heard, a massive response is being planned and also being implemented as we speak. From here in Kuala Lumpur, the International Federation is mobilizing relief supplies. That's basically non-food items, water bladders so that water can be supplied, water tanks will be sent from here to Manila in the next few days. From Dubai, we're coordinating other supplies, hygiene kits, which are very important, very basic things like soap and toothpaste and diapers, etc., for families, and basically coordinating our response. Basically, we are supporting the Philippines Red Cross and its activities. So we have on standby. We have experts in health, in logistics, in all manner of relief operations, and when those are needed, we send them in. And as we speak, as I said, many of those people are on their way.
As we just heard, it is very difficult, isn't it, getting these supplies to the people who need them. It's okay getting them to Manila and in the country, even to Tacloban, but then out from there, the infrastructure is so devastated. So how do you plan to overcome that?
Well, the Philippines Red Cross, being a national organization, has had supplies pre-positioned in many of these locations. Certainly some of those supplies have been accessed immediately, so the Philippines Red Cross has been able, through its volunteer network in Tacloban and other areas, to provide immediate response, such as food and some food items and shelter, some very rudimentary shelters to people in those areas. But yes, you're right, it's a very difficult situation. There is some good news in that we have heard in the last 24 hours that the Tacloban airport is now functioning for humanitarian aid flights, so I think that will be a huge improvement in the situation in the coming days. But yes, these are just very difficult situations that we have to deal with, but we will use our local presence and international expertise to get aid to those people.